everyone, welcome to this lesson. In this video, I want to take a look at the sum series that we have in Excel. Let's look at these 5 functions, how we can actually use them, what they do basically, and how you can actually maximize them. So for the sum is used to add values. It may be in a range, it may be individual values, and the argument is pretty simple, very simple. So we can just say equals to the sum. I'll be using this data here, this employee data here. So I want to sum the actual pay of all the employee here. I'll simply click it and pick the cell up down, and then I'll press my enter, and then I have the total sum to be 86,000 USD. And then let me just freeze this so that I'll be able to see what I'm doing. Yeah, the header is not visible. Now for the sum product, it is actually a function that you can use to multiply corresponding cells. For example, if you have this pay rate, the column for pay rate, and the number of days, you want to actually get the total sum like we have here. You don't have to multiply like this multiplied by this to get this before you actually add the sum. With the sum product, you actually do it at a go, and this is how it works. So you simply say equals to sum product, and then it says the array. Now the first array that I want to call is the pay rate, and then I'll highlight it down, and then I'll press my comma. Then let me just put this away, and then array 2 is the number of days worked. So I'll simply pick the array 2, and then that should give us our answer. So you can see that the sum and the sum product, they gave the same answer, because it actually helps us to multiply this column and this column without having to make reference to this, and then we have our answer. But one thing you should note about this function is that the corresponding cells, the arrays has to be the same. For example, we take a look at this array, we count it, the count is 27. So for column E, it has to be 27. For column F also, it has to be 27. Anything short than that, it will give you an error. So make sure that when you are using the sum product, the array are the same, they are of the same length. And then another function, which is of course quite a lot. There is so many things that you can do with the subtotal. It's actually an army on its own. You can do a lot of things with the subtotal, just like the aggregate function. There are so many sub functions that you can use. So the subtotal returns the subtotal in a list or a data set. For example, let's say equals to subtotal. This is the subtotal, and then you see the argument. Basically there are just two. We have the function num and the reference. Those are the so for the function num, you have other sub function. There are so many that you can use. With the subtotal, you can use the average, the count A, the max, the mean, the product, standard deviation, the sum, and all other stuffs like that. There are so many that you can use. But for this lesson, I'm going to use the average, the count, and the sum. So let's start with the sum. Now the subtotal, if I want to make use of the sum, the function num is 9. So I can either double click this, or I can either press 9 from my keyboard. It's the same, and then your comma, and then it says the reference. So what do you want to, so we want to sum the column for the actual pay. So we picked it from here downward, and then we press enter, and then you see that for the subtotal also you have the same thing. But one thing that is dynamic about this is that, for example, if I filter based on, I have 4 departments. Let's say I want to look for finance. I'll pick finance, and then I'll click on OK. Now if you look at our sum remains static, our sum product remains static, but the subtotal actually is dynamic. It actually gave us the value the total sum of all the employees in finance. So if you highlight this, and if you look at the status bar, you see that it's 12,44600. So this subtotal function is dynamic. It actually helps you to, it gives you the kind of data that you want. It's not static like the sum and every other one that we have. So let me clear the filter. Now, if you use the subtotal, let's say you want to find the average. If I clear this, the average is 1. I put in 1 and I press my enter. Now this is the average salary of all the employee. Now if you filter, let's say you need only marketing, you want to find out the average price, it gives you the average price of the staffs of your employee in the marketing department. So it's actually very dynamic. It's very useful. You can use it for a whole range of activities. Let's say you want to let's say the count 2. I'll simply pick 2 for the count, and there you have it. So there are 27 employees in this staff data. Now if you highlight this, if you highlight any of this, the count is 27. The count is 27. And then another thing you can find out is that, for example, like I said, if you filter, let's say you want to find out the number of employees in human resources, just filter it, click on OK. It says 9. The number is 9. Don't mind the currency sign here. So the number is 9. So it's actually a very useful function. So let me return it to 9, which is the sum. Yeah, you have 9. And if you clear the filter, it gives you all this. Is actually a wonderful function. Now another function in the sum series is the SUMIF, which you can use to add a range that met a single criteria. You can only use the SUMIF to add a range of values that met certain condition, just a condition, a single criteria. Now if you look at this question that says we should calculate the monthly pay of all employees in sales department. That's a single criteria because we only want to look for those employees in sales. With that, we can make use of our sum function. Now equals to, it says SUMIF, and then it says the range. So what is the range I want to calculate? We are looking at the department. That's our range. So I'll pick the entire column in department, and I'll press my comma, and then let me put this up. It says the criteria. Now what was the criteria? We are looking for those in sales. Now you could rather reference sales like this, just click on sales like this, or you can simply put it in a double quotation and type it exactly the way it appears. You can do it this way. Now your comma, and then it says the sum range. This time around, we'll go to the actual pay rate. This is our sum range, and then you close, and then you press enter, and then you see that this is the sum of all the salary of employee in the sales department. You can filter to actually confirm. I want to filter sales. When you add all these values, you see that it's actually 21,000. Now I'll clear the filter. Now let's go to the SUMIF. The SUMIF is used to actually calculate values in a range that met more than one criteria. You can specify multiple criteria, multiple conditions, and you can actually use your SUMIF to get the result. Now look at this question. We want to calculate the monthly pay of all employees in finance who are earning more than 2,000 USD and above. Who are earning 2,000 USD and above. So that is more than one condition, unlike when we simply calculate for employee only in sales department here. For here we have multiple conditions. So let's look at how we can actually do that. So we come here and say equals to SUMIFs. press a tab, and it says the sum range. Now when you say range, it means that you have to select the entire column. So what's our sum range? Our sum range is contained where we have our pay rate. We'll simply pick the column for the pay rate, for the actual pay rate. Now if you look at the argument, after the sum range, the next one is the criteria range. Now the criteria range from our question is that we want to look at department, because finance is actually under department. So we come to department, we pick the entire column, and then we press our comma. Now the next thing that we have to fulfill is the criteria. Now the criteria is that we want to look at finance. So you can either reference the cell like this, or you can type like I did the other time. So this time I'm going to reference the cell like this, and then press our comma. The next one is the criteria range 2, which is actually talking about this column for actual pay. So I'll reference this column again, then I'll press my comma, and then the next thing that exists says that we should supply the criteria 2. Now this time around we are looking for those who are earning 2,000 and above. So we simply come to our formula and put it in quotation and say greater than equals to, because we want to look at 2,000 and above. So, and then we put in 2,000, and then we close the quotation, we close the bracket, and then we press enter. So from this sales data, from this data, so from this employee data, those who are earning more than 2,000 USD in finance, actually this is the total of their salary. This is the sum of their salary. Those who are earning more than 2,000 USD. You can filter to confirm. Simply come here. We want to look at finance. Pick finance, and then this is finance. But in finance, we want to look at those who are earning more than 2,000 and above. So you can come here also, and you apply a number filter. You say equals to greater than equals to. We pick this, and then you put in the value 2,000, and then you press OK, and then it filter out and return those who are actually earning 2,000 and above in that department. And if you highlight and if you look at it, if you look at the sum, you see it from the status bar 10,603.40, which is actually correct. So that is how you can make use of this function. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.